Okay, hello everybody. Let me share the screen before I forget. Okay, so they can also benefit from my bags. Great. So I'm slightly late today because I kind of lost my patience. So the problem is this, that I think Windows is making computer illiterates of many of you, frankly. The Windows operating system, in this sense that I noticed that many of you don't know how to do basic operations with the terminal, such as navigating or deleting files. Maybe I get at my office hours to some of the people who cannot do them, but more importantly, also it makes it hard for you to install the tools that you need in order to diagnose and find the problems that you have been facing, right? So, for example, on a Mac or a Linux machine, it's normal to have SQLite installed, but on a Windows machine, it's not. And so I think I'm really not doing you a favor by letting you use Windows as an operating system for the development in this class. So you can continue to use it if you wish, but the reason I'm slightly late is that I decided I should really switch to giving you a virtual machine on which you can develop if you like. And so I was setting up in my office. Where is it? Of course, things disappear. Which one of these is a virtual machine? This one. So it took me about 20 minutes to install it. And this is a virtual machine done with a VirtualBox. It's free software. And I want to install it, and I want to take a snapshot and let you download it so that it will be installed with a version of Python you can actually use. I bet SQLite is already here. No, maybe not. SQLite 3, no? No, but I can install it. Sudo apt install, okay, SQLite 3. I don't want to do a lot of installation. So I'm a student, and the password is the one you know. And you should probably change it, right? But I think for the moment it's fine. And so this is all it takes to install SQLite 3. And I think it would be very good for you to actually learn how to develop on these Linux machines using a command line, because the truth is that you're not going to find a lot of Windows servers in order to host your websites. Almost all the machines in the cloud on which you develop are Linux machines on which you have to access using the command line. And in this way, you have all the tools at easy disposal. Of course, I need to do a bit more installation before I can do this for you. For example, if I'm running Python, I'm sure that this is a Python. Oh, there is no Python. Ha! This is incredible. Maybe I should have a... does anybody of you use Linux all the time? I wanted to still... should I give them Ubuntu or Debian, or which one is best for developing?
Depends on what you're developing. 1.2.5 okay with.
Sorry?
1.2.5
Yeah, but it strikes me that if they don't ship with Python, maybe they have taken the road that Ubuntu is the Linux for the illiterates of computer science as well.
I think depending on which version of Ubuntu you download, there's something that just not come in any packages. But like
I see.
When I downloaded came with Python 2 installed, and now they're shipping the one with Python
2. I see. Okay, so anyway, I think I'll configure it. I wanted to give you Ubuntu simply because I thought it might have a better UI, because they usually put a good amount of attention in UI. Do people that use Linux a lot? Normally I use Linux a lot, but just from the command line. For the GUI, do you prefer Debian or Ubuntu? Ubuntu. Okay, so I don't want to do it now, but when I go back to my office, when I finish configuring this machine, I want to put Anaconda Python just for uniformity. I want to put a Python 2.7 point whatever, which is what Web2Py uses. I want to install Web2Py, create an application folder, clone my start thingy, install VS Code as an editor, because it comes also for Linux. And then I want to publish this VM. So those of you who want to actually do the homework on this machine, on this VM, I think they will be better off doing that. It will be a learning experience for them. They will learn how to use the command line, how to navigate files. They will have the various tools they need when they need them, easily installable. And I think it's just a superior experience. I don't dislike Windows machines in general. You know, they are great for entertainment. They are great for photography. That's the reason why I moved out of Linux. Actually, you know, I do a lot of photography as a hobby, and you know, there is not a lot of good photography software running on Linux, frankly. But you know, when it comes to serious work, virtual machines running Linux are really one of the best ways to develop. They also have these, I used to call them, you know, pressure lowering features, such as, you know, if you work on a Linux or on a Mac, on a Mac or on a Windows machine, and you need to install a package, sometimes some packages are nasty, right, and require you to change a lot. And so you always have these sort of high strain moments of, do I really install this package and change my basic configuration or not, right? And instead, a virtual machine is very simple because you can take snapshots and you can revert to a snapshot. So just before you dive into installing or doing something very complicated, you can take a snapshot. And if your operation goes wrong, you can unroll and start from a safe point again. You know? So I think it's just a better, safer, and more pleasant way to develop. Okay, so maybe now I should close this parenthesis, but I really encourage you, especially those of you running Windows, because I think Windows, from the time I used to use it, has even more diverged to a place in which it's sort of harder to get the tools there that really enable you to diagnose and the kind of problems that may be there in developing server applications. No, and so I would like to encourage you to switch into virtual machines. I think next time I teach the class, I will just give a VM to download as a way to start. Maybe without the tools installed, so that you still learn how to install the tools on a bare bones Linux machine. But you know, I will give you a Linux VM then nonetheless, so that we start on the OS that is most likely to be found on the servers. Is there any question now? Any comment? Yeah. Yeah, there is also something beeping. Okay, no, yeah, it's sort of.
The two questions from the chat are kind of tangential to this one, but most of them are extension for homework.
Yeah, I'm a bit against extension because I think the homework was easy actually, and given the amount of starter code. And so I'm a bit worried that today I want to release, or maybe tomorrow if I don't make it today, but I want to release the homework 4. And so I mean, what does the MSI tutor think? Are people having so many problems? I don't know. It doesn't seem to me to be such a difficult piece of homework. That's my feeling.
There are people that are struggling with it, but I mean, yeah, I don't think it's too hard.
I mean, yeah, I mean, it's unfair to ask you because it probably took half an hour to do it, frankly. But
it took me like an hour. Yeah.
An hour, yeah.
A lot of it was basically just leaving all the bulk of it together.
Yeah.
There's a lot of code you just specify.
No, the code to write is small.
Well, like,
I think it can be done in 40 lines of code.
Yeah, it's pretty small.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
I just feel like me personally and like some other friends I know is that we have a lot of the code written, but we're just getting like a lot of errors, and it's kind of hard just like scrambling all of them. And then there's just like MSI later tonight, so like.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that it's more, but I'm a bit underwhelmed by the need of it because. I mean, the only thing that brings it to the fourth is that, you know, Windows is a nasty operating system. I had some person in the office today, for example, with this inscrutable bug about foreign key error, right? And the only way to diagnose it in the end, there was no other way to diagnose it than be able to open SQLite. I mean, go into SQLite in the database. And so I want to tell you all what the problem is, because it's a common gotcha that may get any of us. So Web2Py tries to make all databases easy to use, but it's limited by the set of commands available in each database. So if you build your own MySQL database, which I don't quite want you to do it on your own laptop, because, you know, that's another pair of sleeves and you may get into trouble doing that as well. But if you wanted to install MySQL on your laptop, by the way, if you do want to install it, it has become easier. For Mac OS X at least, there is a nice package that you can download from MySQL, which is now owned by Oracle, and the installer worked fine. I mean, I had a lot more problems 5-6 years ago, but nowadays it's pretty smooth to install MySQL on a laptop. So you may want to do that. But essentially, MySQL, Postgres, SQLite, they have a similar language for running queries and returning results, but they differ in the ability to modify tables that already exist. In particular, SQLite is not able to delete columns that you have, and especially is not able to delete any column that has been defined as a reference to another column. So these students were having problems because they defined at some point a reference field to another column, to another table. It was called something like, assume it's called user ID. And it has a type of reference of.user. Or maybe it's product ID reference product, okay? Then they change their mind, and instead of calling it a product ID, they want to say that it's now called product bot. So they say, okay, go. Let me edit the definition. Product bot reference product, okay? The problem is that in the SQLite table, the old product ID defined as a foreign key continues to exist. So now when you try to insert a product, when you try to insert, say, an order in your table, and you don't specify a product ID, you don't specify because it doesn't exist. So your code looks right if you look at the Python. But the database will get upset because it will say, hey, I have a table with a field product ID that is a foreign key, and you cannot leave it null. Okay? And so it gives you this mysterious error. The only way out of which is to actually delete all the files in the database directory. You need to delete them all because essentially in the databases directory there is one file that is really the database, and then there are a bunch of other files that keep the history of how the database tables were created and modified. And because you want to essentially supersede the history and define new tables from scratch, the best way is to just delete both of the tables, both the database file and the history. Okay? So this is purely due to a limitation of SQLite. In other databases, you can add and remove foreign key fields from tables, and the conversions work. Okay? But not for these. Okay? So other questions on these? I realized that this was a problem. I mean, I saw one person on Piazza and 2 people came to my office hours today with this problem. You also saw people with the problem?
2 of them.
2 of them. The same ones?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you sent them to me?
No. I knew how to fix it.
Sorry? You knew how to fix it? Okay, yeah. I didn't, because originally I thought it was, I mean, there could have been a bug in the code. Yeah. Because essentially some of them were using Windows, and so I could not do this SQLite thing until they actually sent to me the application, and only then. And that's part of the reason that I grew ballistic and that decided that it's really kind of a disservice for people to. Maybe I should stop this VM though now. I power off the machine just because it uses my CPU and. Wow, that was fast. Maybe that was not the best way to shut it off. Well, I thought it would communicate gracefully with the shutdown, but maybe it didn't. Okay. Well, I guess we will see. Okay, so thank you for the fly. I'm sorry, I'm looking for my terminal windows and I don't know where they are. It's very obvious, right? Off screen, yes, but where? Normally there is a small piece of them that protrudes somewhere. No, I think, my Mac is also going nuts, but you see, these are 2 files spaced. So I think maybe the only way is to kill them all and restart. Isn't technology beautiful? You see why it's difficult to do curves, right? Tesla is really trying to do the impossible, but you need to build something that actually works and works for hundreds of thousands of miles without breaking down too often. And that's a skill that actually very few companies have. You know, we tend to think that, you know, technology in computers is great, but you need just look at companies that try to improvise themselves as you know, car companies to see how difficult it is to achieve reliability. You know, I mean, if car companies were reliable as my Mac, the highways would be strewn by people trying to reboot their you know, engine controllers because of whatever reason. So, you know. Okay, so let me go to my teaching there. Okay. A bit of larger font. And okay. Okay, I mean, still in Vue3 likers. Okay, so we can continue from where we were with Vue. Is this also off the screen or not? So let me start this from scratch because I'm afraid it's also not, things are going off the screen all the time. Why do I see myself? Okay, so this is what I need. Great. Okay, so I want to continue building my my Web2Py application with Vue. Are there questions on Web2Py and Vue up to this point? Can somebody check if there are questions from the chat channel? Okay, so I'll be assigning the next homework. I think you know, in the end, maybe tomorrow on these. Yeah.
Would it be okay if I posted it again with obfuscated JavaScript?
Yeah. I don't know. I need to think of it.
Okay. I think people like that homework.
No, it's incredibly useful. Yes, it's only my question is only about the obfuscation, whether that would be effective or not. But yeah, maybe you can do that. I mean,
very effective.
Yeah.
I ran one of my apps
I see.
to see how it looked, and I couldn't figure out how to de-obfuscate it. So
Okay.
so I don't think it'd be.
Yeah, I mean the HTML would still be in the clear. I think that would be the one issue.
Yeah.
So let me think a moment actually, but it would be probably a good idea. I mean, I don't know. We could do it for this and not for the next, so that in one of the two they have to learn really how to do that, and for one they have to just focus on the JavaScript, I guess. Okay, so what do I want to do? Aside from getting this to run, because I don't believe it's running, do I have Web2Py running or not? I'm sorry, I got a bit disorganized coming here because of this problem with VirtualBox that I wanted to try to install for you. So Python web2py.py -c. Okay, evidently all is good. So, and again, this is Safari and it is great, but I have a slight preference for debugging things with with Chrome. Sorry, I'm confused because I'm trying to do too many things at the same time, which for me is only login while I try to teach. I know. So what I wanted to do here is this. Before in the last class, we saw how to toggle this like phase. Okay, so it was in one state, and then there was a method to change what we depicted when we hover over it, when we hover out of it, so when we stop hovering essentially, and when we click. Okay, there were these three key methods for dealing with it. And I think we covered them last time in detail. Are there any questions on these? No, you still vaguely remember how it worked, okay? And so what I want to do now is this. I want to make sure that if I hover on one of these places, okay, I actually show the list of the people who liked it, which is kind of boring in this moment because it's gonna be only me, right? Because I mean, I'm running this app and I only ever logged in. But in general, this can be a list of people, and so I want to retrieve it. And so there are various ways of doing it. One way would be for me, server side, when I created a list of posts, to add to each post the list of people who liked it as a list, right? And then encode everything in JSON and ship it to the browser. And in JavaScript, take it apart and display it. But in general, you don't want to do that. So you may not want to load in a single shot all the material that is ever necessary to build a web page, because you slow down the initial drawing of the web page. Imagine, and I know that this is a sort of simple case, but imagine that this page that has 6 posts was actually an Instagram feed in which you had maybe 50 images, right? I mean 50 posts on Instagram. And then if you hover on who liked it, you may have actually, as we were joking last time, I6, but you might have hundreds of people liking your Instagram posts, right? And so it would be kind of a heavy database query to say, hey, give me your latest 50 posts for you, and then for each of the 50 posts, let me read all the list of the people who liked them, and wait until this is all ready before I package it and send it to the browser. Also, to the browser, right? This would induce a high latency. It's also a lot of unnecessary database work, because once you see your list of Instagram posts, maybe you are not gonna check for all of them who like them, right? You may not be curious about all of them. You may only want that information for a couple of them. So often it's much better to be lazy about fetching information and only fetch it on request. So this is what I want to do here. When I send the list of posts, I don't send the list of who liked them. But when I hover over the icon, I want to do a server call, fetch the information, and then display it, okay? So if you look at the networks tab, okay, if I go here on the network tab, you can see this happening, okay? So if I hover over there, wait, why is it not showing it? Sorry, this should be showing it. Okay. Oh, okay, I think I have a method for caching it actually. Okay, so it doesn't ask twice for the same post, because at some point it has already asked. Okay, so this is a minor optimization that I must have made. Okay, I have 2 versions of code. I thought I was showing you first the code without the optimization, but evidently no, this is the code with the optimization in it. Okay, so once it is done, it doesn't show it, it doesn't do the request twice. So how does the code work? So it works in this way. When I am in index, okay, let me get somewhat of a larger screen. So when I do a mouse over, I define the span show likers, okay, that encompasses the inner span that does the toggle like. So I put one span inside the other, and so I have two mouse over comments. So you see there are two mouse over catchers, and generally they will both be activated if I mouse over the inner part, right? Because in general in HTML events cascade, but unless you do something special in JavaScript, once you handle them in an event handler, they continue to cascade to outer levels, okay? And so when you mouse over these, even if you mouse over the inner span, both of these two will get activated. So the inner one, like mouse over, is the one responsible for changing the shape of the face. The outer one, show likers, is the one which is responsible for doing the server call and fetching this set of likers, okay? So let's see how that looks. Show likers is this function, and says, I fetch in the usual way my post. You see, this is always my trick of numbering the list, so I'm able to use the post index to fetch the particular post from the array of posts. Okay, once I know it, once I fetch it, so this is I do two things. I'd say show likers is equal to true. This is purely a variable that changes the display, right? I have one of these if in the vo that when show likers is true, I will show a span where I put the name of the likers. We can go look at it, and it is here. Okay, so you see span if post show likers. Then this will iterate for liker in the list of likers, and it will show who the liker is. Okay, so there is this display code that actually executes a loop on the list of likers, which is enabled only if the variable show likers is true for the particular object of the post. Okay, and so what I do is that in JavaScript, when I hover on, I toggle it to true, and when I hover off, I toggle it to false, right? So that controls the visibility. It does not yet do the server call. The server call is done here. If I don't know the likers, okay, then I ask the server to get them and say, and set the likers, and set that the likers known is equal to true. Okay, so that I don't ask twice. Okay? So to the get likers URL, I pass the post ID, not the post index, but the post ID. The server could care less about which one is the index in the list you are displaying, right? So the post index, as I mentioned last time, is between the UI and the JavaScript, but the post ID is the one that the server knows about. Okay, so so I give it the post ID as parameter. You see, I'm not bothering here to convert the parameter to JavaScript, but because I send it as part of a form done in this way, on the other side I will receive a string, and I will have to take care of that. Once I get the answer data, the data will have a field called likers, and I set p likers is equal to data likers, and that, you know, fills in the information. Okay. So the server is done in this way. In order to get the likers, it does the following. It gets the post ID as an integer, because, you know, this post ID variable, unfortunately, is a string. I do the query, okay, and this is a query. You know, I'm asking for all the likers that have liked the particular post ID. I'm not really reading the post because I don't care about the post. So the post of the UI already has it, right? I just need to know all the likers for that post. Okay, so if you forget that int there, and nothing works, because it would be asking whether a post ID that is a number is equal to a string, and I think you would get the empty result. I'm not sure, you know, because I don't know exactly how Web2Py may do the translation, but my guess is that you would get an empty set of results. Okay. Then I just get the user email. Okay, I build the likers list by doing r.user email for r in rows. Okay, I'm building a list in Python by hand. I'm sorting it in alphabetical order. just because I want to do that. You know, you can do whatever you want. And then I'm returning it by saying likers is equal to likers list. And this likers field here, this field here in the dictionary, right, the tag, needs to match these likers here. Sorry, this one here. Oh boy, it's selecting everything. But the likers there, okay, because it's the field I'm fishing out of the dictionary. Okay? And so that's how the server call is made. Now, I think my code actually contains a bug, and I don't know whether to go into it and fix it or to just tell you that there might be a bug. The bug in my code might be, I mean, it's as you like. If you want to see me waiting for 10 minutes in payoff for the homework, you know, I can do that, I guess. But the bug that came to my mind is as follows. When I click that I like something, do I actually update the list of likers or not? Because you see, at that point, I say that likers known is equal to true. If I ever asked for who the likers are, I will set the likers known is equal to true. So at that point, I will trust the cached version. And I'm wondering, was I smart enough when I wrote this code to remember that then when I click on the like button, I have to add myself to the list of likers, yes or no? And I don't know, okay? So let's look a moment what happens. This is like click. This is what happens when I click on a like. Let's see whether I got it right, okay? Oh, I see. I forced a refresh. This is a very brutal way of doing it, but that's what I must have done. Okay, so my code is correct, but is a bit dumb. Okay? Because when I click on likers, I force a refresh. So the interaction is a bit ugly. Let me show it to you a moment, okay? Let me clear these and see what happens. So I hover over here and it get the likers. Then I do this, and it does set like, which is fine, but then there is an extra get likers, which is silly, okay? So would you like me to try on the fly to eliminate this ugliness, yes or no? Yes, okay, let me try. Let me build a new branch, okay, because I may get it wrong, okay? So git checkout branch who for likers better, okay? And I may need your help a moment to do, you know, searches for code or etc. But so what's the idea? One slight nastiness is the following, okay? And this is, I think, the bug that I had before, and I want to describe it, because the truth is this. I tried to fix it in a hurry to prepare a class, and I got it wrong. But I got it wrong in a very interesting way. And let me tell you why I got it wrong, because it's typical of the subtle JavaScript bugs that you will also encounter. Okay, so it's actually an instructive way to get it wrong. Well, I don't know if you want me to actually replicate the error that I made. Maybe that would be more interesting. So yeah, let me maybe replicate the error that I made. No, let me explain what the error was. And there are various ways to fix it. So the error that I made was simply this, that here, instead of we forced a refresh, I wrote something like this. I wrote, myself appended to the list of likers, aside from the fact that I was not caring about alphabetical order. But imagine that you don't care, that you just want to insert me at the beginning. I would say something like, if likers are known, then I add myself to the beginning of the list. Otherwise, you know, really refresh the list. Okay? That is what I wrote. Okay? And this sounds very reasonable, right? That is, I think, what you would write as well. Okay? Now, what is this very subtle problem? The very subtle problem is that there are two different events that are asynchronous and that are being fired at the same time. When I go, let me refresh this, but when I go to a place and I hover over it, there is going to be this first event that does the get likers. This is an asynchronous event. Let's read it again to see why it may not be written in the best possible way, but how it is written. So this thing that is called, I'm sure, sorry, 1 second. Show likers is going to do this. It's going to set that the likers are true, that I know the likers. Then it is going to do a server call that after a while is going to go back, is going to come back and actually set the list of likers. Okay? So the likers are not known immediately. Let me build a moment some code, some display for you to show you what is going on in the bug I wrote. Actually, maybe I should really recreate the bug to show you why it doesn't work. The bug was something like this. If p likers known, okay, then I don't believe by the way I had my name, but let me add my name in any case because I need it here. Let me do it in a kind of silly way, but like var like user email is equal to, and again I use this trick, okay, of mixing JavaScript with things that are executed on the server. So I'm setting a JavaScript variable on the basis of an expression that is executed on the server, and this will be like this will be none if auth user is none, else auth user email. Okay, and I need an equal sign because this is an expression actually that needs evaluating. Okay, so now I have a variable called user email. Now I go in default.js and I need to insert the user email in first position here. Okay, so I need to do something like p dot likers. How do I add stuff? Unshift, right? What are the parameters of unshift? I'm sorry, I forget every time. Is it this the right syntax? To insert stuff in position 0? I should know it, right? But I don't. You think so, right? Okay, so let's see what happens if I do this. Okay, let me reload a moment. And then, okay, now this seems to work. I mean, aside from the fact that I add it multiple times and I should check whether it's already there. Okay, but let me try to tell you what the bug can be essentially. You are firing two asynchronous things. One that you fire when you start hovering is let me get a blank page. So you fire two things, like you fire get likers, okay, and these will begin at some point. Then you start to say insert Luca among likers, okay? Then later, at some point, you have get likers that will return if you don't know the likers originally, right? And so you may overwrite via this return of the get likers function what you have just set. And the thing is even worse because you actually say insert Luca among likers, and then you say set likers on server. Okay, and this begin. And this you don't know how long it takes. So you think that, you see, the problem is that we have these various things that are going on concurrently. When you start hovering over the likers, we're sending a request to the server to please read that value, and once it comes back, it will actually overwrite our local list of likers. Okay? Then we are inserting look among the likers, look of the current username, and then we are telling the server to actually update that value. So there is no inconsistency on the server. The server will be fine, it will contain the correct state at the end of it, because there is a read request, fine, you read it. It doesn't really matter if these two requests, normally networks maintain order among requests, but it's not a given, right? You could be with a mobile phone, you could have been on a crappier network before, and now you are just connected to the Wi-Fi, and your next request can come before the earlier one. So in generally, the ordering among HTTP requests is not guaranteed. It's not like the order of packets in the same request. When you do a file transfer, every packet is numbered. And so the receiving end waits until the correct reconstruction of the packet ordering can be performed, right? So he's giving me packet 1, 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and I accept 5, 6, 7, but I keep bugging him about packet 4 that has been missing, right? Instead, HTTP requests are not like that. They are not numbered according to any global ordering, right? I see a request and I reply to it. So there is no ordering among the server necessarily among these get likers and these set likers. But thankfully, everything will go fine because only set likers modifies the state, really, okay? So the server is going to be fine. We as the client, we are in big trouble because we say, hey, get me this list. Now, in the meantime, I modify the list. When the request to get the list comes back, I overwrite it as well. And I have this race condition between these two events that can happen, okay? So now it worked fine. And when I was, I think, home playing with this code too quickly a few days ago, it was not working fine. And it's completely random and it's not very easy to replicate. It depends on the server response time, okay? So how do we write this in a principled way, in such a way that we don't have these race conditions, okay? So how do we do it? So let me check a moment. Let me bring this code a bit closer to the other code and see whether what kind of race conditions we can have and not. Okay. So is there a race condition if I write the code in this way? I think before I had the race condition because I had actually this line out there. This led to a race condition. Okay, you see why? You see the difference. When the code is written like this, I set likers known is equal to true, and so I can execute both these requests and I can update the list locally. I think this will give rise to a race condition. To make it more obvious, let me introduce a little bit of delay in the get likers function that will make it easy to replicate, okay? So do I import time? No, I don't. So import time. And so here, before I return the response, I say time sleep of 1 second, okay? So I should be able to replicate the race condition better. Now I do this, I refresh this, and I hope that now we have the race condition. No. Why not? Why is it not executing this? Wait a moment. Oh, of course. No, the error was to do it this way, actually. This is what leads to an error. Otherwise, the if is never taken. I'm sorry. Let me redo it. You see, the thing disappeared. So I liked it, but I'm not any longer in the likers. Should I repeat it? So let me go back to the case in which I don't like that. A moment. I need a post that I don't like. Okay, look carefully at what happens. Maybe let me increase the delay on the server to actually more than 1 second. So let me put these to like 5 seconds. Okay, so look now at what happens. So this is a post I don't like. Okay. Oops, I shouldn't have hovered it on it. I'm sorry. So this is a post I don't like, and now I will quickly hover over it and toggle the state. Look at what happens. I hover, toggle the state. Now it knows that I liked it. Now, in a while, POC. You see, it went disappeared. This is because of the return of the network call. Okay? And this is because the code is written in this way. So when sorry, the code is here. When I hover over it, I say that the likers are known, and then I do actually the request to get the likers. So this request will execute, and this line may execute with quite a bit of delay because it will execute only when the server call comes back. In the meantime, here, I ask if the likers are known, I just insert myself among the likers. Okay, and this will lead to the error. Okay, is it clear? I have this race condition between a local change and a change that will be performed when the server call comes back. It's a very prototypical kind of error. So let's try to improve altogether this code. What are your suggestions to avoid this race condition, essentially?
You're waiting for a response. If you're waiting for a response from the server,
yes, don't update it locally. So how do I know that I'm waiting for the response from the server?
When you send the request, then you have to put this state.
Wait, yeah, tell me if you think that this is okay. Suppose that I say likers known only true only when actually the server response comes back. Would this solve the problem? I'm trying to do what you want to do by being a bit lazier. No, because my idea is that likers known will be equal to false until the request comes, and so this part will not get executed. Okay, but would this solve the problem? No, right? So what can happen now that doesn't work? I mean, you solved this particular problem, but there is another problem. Can anyone see it? I think you can. You were sort of saying.
I think it doesn't update the database itself. So if you were to leave the site and go back to it, it wouldn't have updated.
No, that's actually not true because the post here is not inside any if, so the database will still get the right value. So that's not the problem. But there is another problem with this code. What is it? Does anybody see it? So the problem is this, that suppose the state is not known. Let me just maybe remove this delay time sleep, okay? But assume that the state is not known. Then I'm doing two things here. I'm firing off this request that eventually will come back. Okay, I mean, I'm not inserting myself, okay, but I'm posting that the state has changed to the database. So eventually the database will be in the right state, but I'm sending to the database, I'm sending to the server two things. I'm sending to the server a read and a write. And of course, I would like that first the write happens and then the read happens, because only then I'm guaranteed to have the right state on the server, right? But I'm not guaranteed. I'm just sending these two things, and I don't know which one of the server will do first. Not only because things can be swapped on the network, but because this was sent to a real server, servers typically are implemented with many front-end machines, right? These two are with us two separate requests. Who knows? I mean, maybe typically they would be handled by the same server, but there is no strict guarantee, you know? And so you in general don't know that this will happen, okay? So basically you're sending two requests to the server, and you don't really have an ironclad guarantee of being able to do the write before the read. In fact, if anything, you may be sending before the read and only then the write, okay? So if you write the code like this, you might have the phenomenon that you are not included in the result. And so, in fact, how to simulate it? To simulate that bug, in set like, just at the beginning, I can say time slip of a couple of seconds, okay? So that the act of writing to the database is a bit slower, okay? So, so how would this work? Let's give it a try. Let's see if I was really able to create a problem. Okay. So I need stuff I don't like the third post. Okay. Tac. Ha. Okay. You see, it was a bit crazy, right? What happened? Because I had for a while. You see, there is sort of this strange delay in how the figure happens, but also there is this inconsistency. So how do we solve it? So we solved one problem, but now we have the problem that we want to be sure that if we fire off a request, after we do the database change, we have the updated state. So there are various solutions, and none of them is incredibly pretty.
Would you want to wait for a response and then?
So what I was doing before in my code before that was dumb but safe, is that in the old code I was essentially invalidating the email. So the old code was something like this, okay? I forgot what I wrote, but I think I said self-show likers. Is this what I wrote in the previous code? So this is essentially a way for me to give up on trying to be smart. Okay, so I'm essentially relying on the server to do various jobs. It would add me to the list of likers if I'm not already there. It would duplicate it, and it would make sure that everything is listed in alphabetical order. So perhaps it wasn't too bad a solution. Actually, let me go back a moment to that code branch. Git checkout who for likers. Okay. Okay. Sorry. Where is who for likers here? Okay. I want to discard the changes that I made. So my very brutal solution was this, that first I would try to do, so here the parentheses are not well put, okay? But essentially I was doing a post in which I was doing the following. First, I do the post to set the new data, okay? And then when the post comes back, I would again call show likers. okay? In order to be sure that I read after I post. So this is a silly way, but it's a way that works. It's a safe way that works, okay? There are various ways to solve this problem. So this is one solution. Essentially, it's very brute force, okay? And I'm sure that at least I display things after I perform the database write. Okay, I mean, it's not perfect, but it's a possible solution. Another way would be that to make sure that when I call the set like URL via this post, actually I get some JSON values back that contain the right that contain the list of likers, and that should be perhaps a better solution. Okay. So let me try to implement this solution, to implement a post that returns as data the new set of likers, sorted in the proper way. Okay, so let me try to implement this on the fly. So git checkout branch v for likers bis, I guess. So let's try to see how we can do it a little bit better. Okay, so, and I want to do a couple of changes. First of all, I don't want to do here a post. I want to do a get JSON, because it's kind of easier to get JSON values back. Okay. Now, if I do a get JSON, for the first time, we are trying to do a get JSON with a strange thing. That is, we are doing a get JSON in which we pass command line variables. Okay. And then I want to say something like this. When I get back the data, I will do something like this. Instead of doing another call to show likers, I will simply say p likers is equal to data likers. Okay, so I assume that I will get the list of likers. Okay. So let's try to make this work. What changes do I have to do? The first change is that I have to ensure that the method to set likes returns me the list of likes. So this sounds easy, and let's do it. Okay, so this is the code for set like. I don't want to just return this. Okay, I wanted to essentially splice in this code. I could do it in a sort of nicer way, okay, but I'm in a hurry, and so I do this a moment. And then I just want to check that post ID is well defined, yes, so this query will be perfect, okay, and everything will work. So this will return the right value, okay? Now there will be one problem in doing this, okay? The problem is as follows. Let me reload the code and show to you what goes wrong this time. So if I do this, and then I click, let's see a moment what happens, okay? I get a not authorized, okay? Why is that and what is happening? So the problem is this, that this get likers now has become not a post request, sorry, this set likers, which is called as not authorized. Oh boy. Why did I lose the... Okay, I think I need to go to the server a moment to see the list of requests. You see, this is get starts API set like, and then this is followed by a not authorized. This is a bit unfortunate that I don't have the list here in the... Oh, okay, this is a set like that failed. Okay, that was failed with a redirect to not authorized. Okay, so this is the error happening. Why was I not authorized? Okay, and the problem is this. It's a serious problem that you will have to deal with a lot of the time. The problem is that by default, when you sign a URL, you sign the whole of the URL. For post URLs, it doesn't matter because the payload of a post URL is in the post body. It's not in the URL itself. So if you sign a post URL, you generally don't need to worry because you're always going to use the URL without modifications. But this time, we are not doing that. When you do a get, when you do a get JSON, the variables of the get JSON are passed in the URL itself. Because in a GET request, there is nothing but a URL. So whatever variables you have, they have to go into the URL, okay? You may wonder, why didn't we get into this trouble before? And the answer is that if you look at our get JSON, they didn't have any parameters. If you look at the get JSONs we have in the code, we have one here. This is a troublesome one. But the other ones, okay, they are get likers URL, which is not signed, okay? So if I added a signature, you would have had the trouble before as well. So essentially, you cannot just do a get JSON to a signed URL without precautions. The precaution is this. Essentially, we are signing to match in the URL. We are signing not only the URL, but we are signing also the parameters. But the parameters are known only at call time. So when I sign the URL here, in this set like URL, I should actually say something more. I should say API set like, and then I should beg it essentially, user signature is equal to true, but please don't sign also the variables because these are not known at this point and they will be known only later. Okay, so there is a way for doing it, which I forgot. Is somebody able to recall what is how it is called? I think it's called sign variables is equal to false, but I don't recall it in this moment. I mean, I don't recall the precise syntax. So web to pi, user signature, sign variables. Okay. I think it's in the core, digitally signed URLs. Okay, hash vars, I think is called. Okay, so hash vars, an optional list of names of variables from the URL query string to be included in the signature. It can also be set to true, the default to include our variables, or false to include none of the variables. So hash vars is the thing to ask. So to fix this bug, I need to say here, hash vars is equal to false, and correspondingly in api.py, when I ask for the signature, I have to say hash vars is equal to false, okay? Because I need to verify the hash in the same way in which I generate it, okay? So there are these two corresponding changes. One is that when I generate the signed URL, I have to exclude the variables from the signature. And the other change is that when I verify the signature, I have to exclude the variables, okay? This still will protect us because still nobody else but the, still other sites are still not able to guess this assigned URL because the hash key is still only present on the server, okay? So if I try this code again, let me clear the network tab so we can see what goes on. Actually, let me first reload it, then clear the network tab. And now we should see that this actually goes through. Yes, you see, set like worked. Okay? And so I should be among the likers.
So you had to include that in the controller that's assigned with that hash variable?
Sorry?
The controller that was controlling that, you had to change that as well?
Yes. I made these two corresponding changes. I made it in the controller for hash vars is equal to false, and I made it in the digitally signed URL. Okay, so this is a fine point that you know, typically is one of the things on which students get it wrong. Um, uh, they usually define signed URLs for communicating, and then they go from a post to a get or something like that. For a post, it's fine to sign URLs because the variables you send in a post, they're sent in the body of the post typically. Not the URL is unchanged. But if you use a get instead, you have to be careful that because of the variables in the get usually are not known until you know, dynamically until JavaScript runs, the signature cannot be valid for any value of the variable, for all values of the variables. So it's better to exclude the variables from the signature in the JavaScript, I mean, in the generation of the URL, and then also in the verification server side. Okay? So, so yes. Now I notice in the code that there is still one thing that I can improve. That is, when I do like click, I do likers, data likers, etc. But I should also, at this point, I think I can say actually that p likers can be equal, known, it can be equal to 2. Okay, so I can, this is a better code. I realized this because when I was looking at the network tab before, you see that after set like, I called get likers again. That's pretty useless, right? And so with this change, it should not happen anymore. Let's check it a moment. Okay. Let me save this code, reload this page. Okay. And now, let me clear up this stuff. And when I click here, okay, you see now I fixed it. Set like is not followed by an extra call to get likers. So this code is actually pretty decent. Okay. I mean, there is still a race condition, right? That the first read can be executed after the second write. Okay, so there is still a race condition in this code. Yeah, I'm right, no? Yeah. So how do we solve this race condition? What would be good ways to solve it if it was important?
Where experiencing another race condition?
The race condition is in the fact that this code here could be executed before this comes back. Okay? So what would be a good way to fix this race condition? Yeah, but except that in JavaScript there is only one thread, and it's not really a problem of mutex locks. It's a problem of what would be a good paradigm to solve it? Do you have any idea, Austin?
Which function has to happen first? The show like first?
Yeah. No. We have to prevent that the result of the write is overwritten by the show likers. So one solution could be that when you fire the write, you set a flag that says this should not be overwritten by a show likers. That would be a simple solution. Okay? Not a pretty solution, but it's a solution that I imagine can work. Let's go through it a moment and see if you can find a bug with my idea. Because I'm not sure that it works, frankly. These things are complicated, and so we have to be careful. My idea is this. When you write to the database, what you want to avoid is that you first write to the database, and then only after. So first of all, let me demonstrate to you that there is a bug, first of all, okay? So that you can see the bug first. To demonstrate the existence of the bug, I can go here and say that getLikers actually returns only with a long delay, like time sleep of 5. So that we can see the problem, and this is useful because then we can test that it actually doesn't exist once we solve it. So the problem is like this, okay? I can click somewhere, and this shows the return. And then after a while, the database call will come back. I mean, the read call will come back. Did I get an error here? Oh, yes, 500 internal server error. I'm sorry. I generated something. Sorry, let me fix this error. Time is not defined. Oh, I'm sorry. I just went, yeah, sorry. This is not what I wanted to demonstrate, right? So let me just repeat the demo. So, okay, so let me just stop liking a few things so that we can and reload the page. Okay, now I want to show you what goes wrong. Okay, so nobody likes this second post. Okay, so I hover on it and I like it. Now it says that I like it. And in a while, the call returns and overwrites the value. You have seen it, right? For a while, it showed that I was a liker, which was correct. And then the call came back, the read call came back much later and erased my value from there. So somebody likes it, but it doesn't tell me whom, because my value was overwritten by an empty string. Let me do it again, okay? Because I saw that not all of you can catch it. You should see that my name should first appear, and then after the second 5-second delay, it will disappear. My name is here. This get likers call is pending, zoom, it returned, and overwrote with an empty list the list of likers. Okay, so now we exhibit the bug. How do we prevent it? My idea is the following. I'm not quite sure that my idea is correct, but my idea is as follows. My idea is that once I fire the write, essentially, I want to say that I am in charge of, I as the JavaScript, am I in charge of knowing which one is the list of likers. Okay? I don't want anybody else to overwrite that list. And so I'm gonna create a variable that is do not update list or something like that. And when that is true, getLikers will stop updating that list. Because I assume not only that I already know it, but that there is no more need to know it. Ah, there is a simpler solution, in fact. Okay? The simpler solution, rather than inserting a new variable, is this. Observe the following, okay? That in the JavaScript here, when I, here, once I know the likers, I set this to true. But here, in this code for in this code here, let me move it to the side of the other code. In this code here, once the call returns, I always execute these lines. So an easy way to fix the problem is to say this: if p like not p dot likers known, okay, and move these lines in the if then else. Okay, I think that this might fix the problem. Because if I do this, then what happens? Once this call returns, it will set likers known is equal to true. When this call returns later, it will not perform the update. So this is a way essentially for saying when the write call returns, it will write that the likers are known, and once the likers are known, I will never again ask the server nor care about any return value in order to update my local list of likers. Essentially, once likers is known, the local list has the precedence over the remote list. And this will resolve the race condition. Okay? Shall we give it a try? Let me first dislike these two things, then I sort of refresh the page. And now I try again on the second post. So I go there, I'm listed. The call has not yet returned, is pending. You see that Pepe, it returned, but I'm still in the list. So I solved the problem. Okay? Now there is yet another problem. The yet another problem is this, that if I hover over it, sorry, this one was a line. If I hover over it, look at CSE liked it, okay? And this is fine. And now likers known is set to true. Now at this point, Joe may go visit the site and can also start liking this particular post, okay? Now I will never know it, so I'm not refreshing it, okay? And so this at this point is your decision. This is a lesser problem. What you do often when you develop websites is that you care most about user consistency. It's like you go on Instagram and you know that Joe, Helen, and Carla liked your post. Are you fine? And now maybe there is also Ugo that landed on the page and clicked on like. Do you want the user to know in real time or what kind of delay is acceptable, right? This is a much lesser problem because it's not an inconsistency that the user notices. The user sees a perfectly consistent view of the reality. It's only that the view of reality is stuck in a point in the past. But this is fine. It's not a bad problem. So this is your problem to solve, okay? What are various solutions? The solution is, in general, that we have these likers known to be a Boolean that once set to true is always true. So the problem is not so much tied to the fact of the read-write inconsistency at this point. The point is tied to the fact that we cache something and we never stop caching it, okay? What are the solutions? Well, one solution is that you could put, instead of a Boolean, you could put a timestamp. Okay, and you could replace the test for the Boolean. You could replace the test for the Boolean not here, but rather here, where you decide whether to fire the action or not. In this particular line, you could replace it with a test of whether the cache value was too far away in time. Okay, you could, for example, decide that you cache it for at least 30 seconds or for at least a minute. This would be fairly reasonable, right? It all depends on the user expectations. For example, do you happen to know when you are on Instagram, what is the delay between when your friends like a picture and between the time you actually know that the picture is liked if you are logged in on Instagram at that time? Do you know it or not? Sorry? You know it? How long is it?
7 seconds or so.
Several seconds.
Not like a time, but
Yeah, no, but you sit next to a friend, right? And you like it and you see how long they are before they're notified, right? Yeah.
5 seconds.
Yeah, 5 seconds. So that's probably because Instagram might use, I think, an open channel to be notified of changes to things that are of interest to you. They probably have some way to send essentially notifications of changes. That's what they do. Okay, but otherwise it's fine. So this is your decision at this point. Okay. So sorry, this took me much longer than I wanted, and I think at this point I should show you the sign-in form that I had forgotten for too long to show you. Where is it? Don't I have a form open? Sorry, I'm just trying to get the form. Okay. Does it work for everybody, or do I need to post to the chat the URL? I can't easily. Let me see if I can. I can do it, but only with a bit of delay. Um, one second.
In this drum hole 50.
Okay. Sorry for the complication, but it's just that I don't want to share in the recording the content of my drive. Okay. Yeah, and there is a short quiz. I'm asking essentially if the lectures are too fast or too slow.
I had an idea for the.
Yeah?
What if I did the assignment in AngularJS instead of Vue? So then the markup would look different.
Sure, but
Because then the HTML would be different anyway, because it wouldn't be using Vue.
right. It's a good idea. I don't want to give you too much work to do. Maybe let me communicate with you after I write the assignment,
Okay.
so that we can see.
It wouldn't be too much work because I mean I know Angular pretty well, so
Okay.
It wouldn't be longer.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so I mean, sorry for taking so much time to discuss these synchronicities, but actually they're one of the main trouble when you write a JavaScript applications. I think it's because all of us have this model of one thing running at a time, but really what is going on in a web application is that there are client and server. They have different time scales, so the replies don't come in the same order, and so the asynchronicity that is just not there in a lot of UI programming in a single server now instead is there to bite us at all times. Yes. Not in Web2Py, right? But we can do promises in Vue. Right. So I think we can cover them later. I mean, just because they are not the properties of the server, they are properties of the JavaScript, the promises. But yes. Okay, thank you. I mean, I leave this up a little bit longer for the people who want, but otherwise the class is over.
For your race condition,
Sorry?
for your race condition, why not just send delay getting a response? I guess because like I feel like you're trying to update the likers, right? So everyone can see the likers.
Sorry?
You're trying to so when you set the light, you're encountering a race condition.
Yes.
So why not set it locally, and then when you send out that response, it updates everybody. But you just need so you get a response, so it should have an updated version, right? And then not do anything until it gets that response back. So essentially, you're waiting for like a response from the service.
Sorry. So explain it again. Sorry, I lost track of.
Okay. So we have the server or the client that makes a request to the server,
Yes.
right?
Which
so
request? The request or the read request?
Well, so we're doing why not disambiguate? So don't do the read request until we get it. Or like when you do the update for the makers, then perform a read request afterwards. So wait for a response after the write request and there was an okay.
Yeah, but that also doesn't solve the problem. Because the problem is
I don't need the ID is supposed to display the
when
product
you
name, right?
the problem is that
Yeah, that's what I have it working. So that's it.
Right.
So
you're not
your
using
mouse
the
first
ID.
enters. So you first have a read request. then you might just even find out, right? That's so what you're saying is that after
Yeah, I don't know why.
multiply another
That's probably something. Are you showing the orders you show? Do you have readable
because
sentences?
we will know that we get right from the stage. Because we are playing for me.
I can't answer the question.
You don't know that things are good.
No, I don't have that.
Okay, so
And the point you are on the user peak, so that's already fine. And you don't know, they come back really late.
maybe
You have the order email inside the order page?
Yeah, exactly. It's not sent to the request, it's not sent to the user peak. It's sent because you need it. Yeah. And that's what it's about.
Yeah, I haven't ordered.
And then it's not a period of the page.
Oh, it's
Oh, yeah, it's readable, right? False.
Okay.
that is not.
Yeah. Take care, Professor.
Okay.
Yeah.